What's up, everyone? This is Nate, and I'm back with another video for you this week. Now, we're going to be doing something a little bit different here in October. Going to take a little break from the director rankings, which will be coming back next month. I'll be going back into some more top fives. But what we're going to be doing in October is I am, of course, doing a 31 days of horror movies. So watching 31 horror movies, one per day. I've done this every year since I think 2014. I'm usually able to finish it. So in order to help me stick with it, I will be doing weekly recap videos of what I've watched through my 31 days of horror. So normally there will be about 7 quick reviews, like not even reviews, quick thoughts and scores on the movies that I'm watching. But I will not be doing 7 today. Obviously, it's only October 3rd when I'm filming this. So I will be giving you my first 3 of my 31 days of horror, and then next week, of course, it'll be 7 till the end of the month. All right, so started off with some. I went to different labels as I was, kind of compiling my list. I got some Criterions, I got some Scream Factories, I got some regular ones, I got all different kinds. So I'm going to be giving you my first 3, which are all from Criterion. But before I get into the actual reviews and scores, let me just go ahead and please ask you if you would consider subscribing to the channel. This way you get all our videos and you get notified every time we drop them. Make sure the bell icon is clicked. That way you do get those notifications. Give me a thumbs up down below. Please help share the video, like the video, and leave me a comment if you are participating in 31 Days of Horror. And if so, what have you watched so far? All right, so the first movie that I watched is a movie called La Llorona. This is from 2019. It's a Spanish, it's in Spanish language, but it's from Guatemala. And this was a pretty interesting movie. It was a different take on the legend of La Llorona, which is, of course, Mexican, from what I looked up. And this is not a Mexican film. So the characteristic or traits of the character are there in that, it's a vengeful spirit and she drowned her children. And so you hear crying and all this kind of stuff. And all those things that are kind of hallmarks of that spirit are in this film. But this is not like a straight up horror film. It is a mixture of sort of a political film that has a lot to say about things that happen in the country of Guatemala, namely genocide and things like that by the government. And they use that as a backdrop to tell this story. There is obviously some supernatural elements to it. I would not say it's necessarily very scary, not for me at least. I didn't find it scary. There's a couple of good suspense scenes. Every time it turns nighttime, it gets a little creepy. I guess I would say that, but I wouldn't call it an outright horror film. It is a little bit of a mix of a political sort of drama with a supernatural element to it. What I will say is I think it's a very good film. I really like the movie. I don't think it's an amazing horror movie, but I do think it's a really solid film. I thought the performances were good. I was intrigued throughout. It's only 90 minutes. It moves quick. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. As far as like a horror recommendation, I guess it is a horror film. It is in my 31 Days of Horror, but it's not a traditional horror film. So I will just leave it at that. But as a movie itself, I thought it was very good. Next one I watched is a Japanese film called Cure. This one's from 1997. And this one is a serial killer movie, again, with sort of a twist. Could be supernatural, could be something else. Essentially follows this cop who is investigating these murders that are all very similar, but they're done by different people. The victims have nothing to do with each other. The killers have nothing to do with each other, but they kill the people and they do the same thing where they slash an X into their throat. And you're following this cop and you're kind of following this other character who seems to have the ability to sort of hypnotize people into doing these murders. And this is not really a spoiler, trust me, because this movie is very twisty. It reminded me of something, I guess it would be in the ballpark of something like a Seven or a Silence of the Lambs, in that it's not a horror that is like with a ghost or a demon or anything like that. It is a murder movie, a serial killer movie, but with different killers. So it's an interesting take. It's a great movie. I really, really enjoyed the movie. Another one, I wouldn't say it's very scary at all. And I'm not just saying that as someone who watches horror. Like, a lot doesn't scare me anymore. But even I can recognize when something is scary or would be scary for others. I don't really think there's anything too scary in this movie like that. I mean, obviously serial killers are scary, but there's a possible supernatural element. It's kind of ambiguous as to what specifically is going on, but you could put two and two together and sort of make some assumptions. It's a very good film, very Japanese. I mean, it is a Japanese film, and it has like a lot of the hallmarks of Japanese cinema, especially in the 90s. But I think it's a very good movie. Another one that I would recommend, I'll give that one an 8.5. So far, 2 movies in, I watched 2 movies that I really enjoyed, but I wouldn't say either one of them was particularly scary. That sort of continues with my third movie, which was a first time. Oh, these are all first time watches for me, by the way. Videodrome, David Cronenberg. Now, this one's from 1983. I've obviously heard about this movie for years. I bought this Criterion on a sale years ago, and I just never got around to watching it. I finally watched it. I said, hey, 31 Days of Horror. I know this is sort of a horror movie. This movie's not for me. David Cronenberg is not a director that is for me. Honestly, I have liked 3 of his movies, being The Fly, History of Violence, and Eastern Promises. And those last 2 are not horror movies at all. And they're very straightforward, and they're probably his most commercial films. The other movies I've seen from him now include this, and I can't even remember what I've seen. The Crimes of the Future, which I hated. I wouldn't go so far as to say I hated this movie, but I would say it's not one that I would ever watch again. James Woods is really good in it. Debbie Harry is in it. She's cool. The visual effects are great. The makeup effects are great. Rick Baker did them. Very gross, body horror stuff. But the story is just not my cup of tea. I didn't know what was going on most of the time. They're saying all these words, and they're talking about long live the new flesh and the Videodrome and the becoming he goes into a TV. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. And it's extremely weird. And I'm sure it's some sort of allegory for something else, or like people being obsessed with technology or TV or something. But as the movie's told, it did not work for me. I was most of the time just confused, and it got to a point where I just stopped trying to think and just started watching what was happening on screen because I didn't know what was going on. So on one hand, on a technical level, I respect the film. I think it's very well made, and I think it does have some really good effects. But on the other hand, I didn't really enjoy it, and I would never watch it again. So I'm going to give it a 5. I'm going to put it right in the middle. I'm going to give it a 5. It's a respect 5 more than an enjoyment 5. So those are my first 3 of the month. And of course, next week I'll be back with 7 new titles. I'll go through them a little quicker for you. I won't have the intro, so I'm just going to be going movie. Until then, take it easy.